So SpotOn is one of the sponsors of this show because I love what it is they do. Today I'm chatting with the Restaurateur-in-Residence over at SpotOn. His name is Scott Youkilis. He has been a restaurant operator and owner for many, many years before switching over to the restaurant tech space. He brings a lot of perspective and insights to the table. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. Don't go anywhere.
There's an old saying that goes something like this. You'll only find three kinds of people in the world. Those who see, those who will never see, and those who can see when shown. This is Restaurant Strategy, a podcast with answers for anyone who's looking.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is Chip Close, and this is Restaurant Strategy, a podcast dedicated solely to helping you build a more profitable restaurant. Each week, I leverage my 20 plus years in the industry to help you build that more profitable and more sustainable restaurant. I also work with owners and operators all over the world through my P3 Mastermind program. What are the three P's? They stand for profit, process, and progress. If you struggle to generate consistent, predictable 20% profit, then please set up a free call with me or someone from my team. We'll get to learn more about you and your restaurant. You'll get to learn more about the program. You can see if you're a good fit for the program. The call is totally free. To get started, visit restaurantstrategypodcast.com/schedule. You'll set up a call, we'll chat, and we'll go from there. Again, if you struggle to generate consistent profit, if you're still in single digits, there is a better way. We'd love to chat with you about it. Set up that call. The link is in the show notes. Now, thousands of restaurants across the country use Kickfin to send instant cashless tip payouts directly to their employees' bank accounts the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem. Because let's face it, paying out cash tips to your workers day after day, shift after shift, it's kind of a nightmare. Tedious tip distribution takes managers away from work that matters. It's hard to track payments, which leads to accounting and compliance headaches. Plus, cash tip outs create the perfect opportunity for theft. And there's never enough cash on hand to pay out those tips. So managers are constantly making bank runs. Bottom line, there's never been a secure, efficient way to tip out until now. Meet Kickfin. Kickfin is an easy-to-use software that sends real-time, cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Tipping out with Kickfin gives managers and operators hours back in their day. It makes reporting a breeze and protects your business from mistakes and theft. And guess what? Employees love it. So it's one of the best recruiting tools out there. Best of all, restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds, no hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Get in touch today for a personalized demo and see how restaurants and bars across the country are tipping out with Kickfin. Visit kickfin.com/demo, and yes, that link is in the show notes. Now, as I said at the top, my guest on today's show is the Restaurateur-in-Residence at SpotOn. SpotOn is a POS company and so much more. They're a sponsor of this show. My guest today is Scott Youkilis. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chip. Great to be here. Always love meeting with you, chatting with you.
Yeah, listen, we've connected a handful of times over the last year or so, and we always have good conversations. To start, right, before we get into SpotOn, before all of that, I want you to tell me, and really the listeners, about some of your background, just to give them context so they have an idea of where you're coming from, what you do, what you've done. So what brought you to SpotOn? What did you do before SpotOn? How long have you been with SpotOn? Tell me all of that. Bring us up to speed.
Right, yeah. So born and raised in Cincinnati, and I went to school at Indiana, and around that time, 16, 18, I don't know, somewhere around, being a youngster still, always wanted to open a restaurant. That was my dream. I don't know why it came up. I mean, I have my inklings around why I wanted to do it, but I always wanted to own a restaurant. So I finished school at Indiana, and I was like, well, and in the 90s, it was going to culinary school was the thing. And I figured that I didn't really want to own a business of my own without knowing the whole entire business. It just didn't feel right. And I had only at that time really had worked in the front of the house and kind of been doing, the servers and all those roles as in the front of the house. Dabble a little bit in the back house, but didn't really know how it actually worked. So I was like, well, let's go to culinary school. So I went to Johnson & Wales and put my time in there, and I was in Providence. And at the time, I was going back and forth between Providence and New York City, and my uncle was involved in restaurants there. So I got to work at some awesome spots in Tribeca, one being the Odeon and his place, which now is actually called Edwards. And so I got this really cool look at being like, culinary school, but then also like real life on the weekends and seeing like how these really high intense, high volume restaurants are working. But then I had to make a decision. School's over. Do I stay in New York or what do I do? And I decided actually moving to San Francisco would be the thing to do. So in 2000, I moved out here, still chasing that dream of opening a restaurant. And I'm line cooking for a couple years here, being so close to where all the wine is, the grapes are grown, the wine is made, the best ingredients in the world are being grown, less than, 100 miles. And of all the things, the farmers markets, it was just bursting, and it was so inspirational to be a part and work for some great chefs. And then, so it ended up that, by 2005, I'd actually found a partner, a good friend of mine, and we raised $250,000. We found a spot in the Mission District, and we went for it. We all in. I'm running the back of the house now. He's running the front of the house, and we went for it. I mean, $250,000, and we got a 1,000 square foot spot. And in 2005, I finally reached the dream. 29 years old, and we opened our first restaurant, and it was it was something else. We were on a crazy street. We didn't know what we were really doing, although we were very, we loved it. We were very passionate about it, and we got that thing going. It was 7 days a week, as most people listening, I'm sure they open a restaurant. It's every day, all day, nonstop. And we put our heads down, and by the end of the year, we had found ourselves being one of the best new restaurants in San Francisco. We won numerous awards, best brunch, and everything. It was such a great experience, and it opened a second restaurant in 2010, a third one in 2013, but by the end of 2013, the first restaurant was called Maverick. Actually, had burned down. We actually had a major kitchen fire. So 2013 was a weird year. I had three, and then the second one, which was called Hog and Rocks, which opened in 2010, was booming. But the third one had not really gone off like exactly where I wanted to be. And what I learned is, how important it is to have a plan and have concept and have all these things right, what it takes to actually open a restaurant. And it just didn't hit. And so I had friends of mine came in, made an offer, we sold it, and by 2014, I was back to one restaurant. But I had my best year in 2014, 2015, 2016, well-oiled machine, everything happening. Things started to change again, and by 2018, I had an offer to kind of move on. A good friend of mine had raised a bunch of dough, wanted to go out on his own, so he made an offer. And I went forward. I exited. I took a position I took the opportunity as a way to maybe, this is it. Maybe I've done it. I've been doing this thing for a super long time. Maybe it's time to find some other passion. So it ended up selling and trying to figure out what was next. And at one point, it was super relieving to be out and not to be answering and being part of this massive machine that we put together. But it was also a great opportunity to go find other passions, and one had been in restaurant tech, and I had been for the last 10 years really being at the hub of startups in San Francisco and all these new companies. I mean, I'd been around and seeing their growth and being part of. And so I really got hooked, and I was like, I think this is really calling. This is where I want to be. And so I ended up at SpotOn a few years later. Just about a few years ago, I started with them and brought me on as Restaurateur-in-Residence.
Yeah, so talk to me about. I have so many questions. This is so great. I love your trajectory so far. There aren't many companies that I know of that have a Restaurateur-in-Residence. So talk to me about what that is and what you do for SpotOn, and we'll use that to talk about SpotOn, what it is as a company, and then we might backtrack a little bit because I want to go back and I want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the stuff you were talking about, your time in San Francisco as a restaurateur. But first, talk to me a little bit about what a Restaurateur-in-Residence does.
Right. Well, they brought me on as that, and the title is certainly, being in residence or of anything, it's as an expert. And our technology is, we're selling to restaurants, we're talking to restaurants every day, and to have an expert, someone that actually had opened restaurants and been part of that world. We had a lot of people. We do have a ton of people that work for SpotOn that have had some role in restaurants, but no one maybe quite like myself. Yep. And so my initial kind of job description included working with our advisory council, so this kind of elite group of clients of ours and restaurant owners, group owners, to kind of work with them and talk about roadmap and talk about what does technology mean and how does it improve our lives in the restaurant world, and also start a brand ambassador program, which really allowed me to talk to our clients and talk about this world of what they live in. These are maybe a little bit more of the mom and pops, independents, and get to speak to them and obviously build some business, build our business through them, through referrals and references. But the cool part was that I could get to talk to them and talk to restaurants every day still. And to put me in someone who's been in their shoes, it's a much different kind of conversation than just some other guy from marketing.
I totally agree. It's one of the things longtime listeners of the show will recognize. I say this just about every week. One of the true value that I think someone like yourself brings to the show, brings to the audience, everybody listening, is just that, is that you get to peek behind the curtain of a lot of different restaurants. I think that offers a unique perspective. I think there's a lot of insights that gathered. So coupled with sort of your own experience and having gone through it, and now being sort of 1 degree removed away and maybe being able to be a little bit more objective, I'm going to use that to talk briefly about. Talk to me about what you think you did well, or I mean, you said by the end you were really humming along. The restaurant that you were running when it was down to just the one was sort of clicking on all cylinders. Things were growing great. It was your best year, year over year over year. What is it that you sort of figured out? And then talk to me about how you sort of juxtapose that against what you do now, and when you watch other operators operate. Talk to me about that experience.
I mean, I think when I actually talk to people, what I learned is, because I hear people struggling, I hear people killing it, I hear people everything in between, and I think that what I try to talk about the things that I was successful in, and not so much in like, oh, this is how you should do it, because I'm in a different market than they are. I have a different size restaurant. I have a different concept. I have all these things, but there seems to always be that, like, the same kind of construct that always comes together to make, whether it's a new restaurant opening or just what makes a successful restaurant. And I think it's got to have a plan, and we were and you got to have a really solid concept and make it clear. Like, I was thinking about, like, okay, well, this is cool fusion of different ingredients and countries coming together, but now the media wants to come in and taste it. What, it tastes good, but like, what is that? Like, I don't even know what it is, Yeah. And it's like, no one can really talk about it. So that means, like, now you're not getting good press. You're not getting not building up all these things. And that happened to me. Like, and that was kind of like, we weren't really clear about what we were going to do, and we set the expectations wrong for maybe almost in a PR marketing kind of situation, where we weren't very clear about what we were going to sell, what we were going to make, what the experience was going to be when they walk in that door. And and I see that and I hear that, and I try to like boost them and say, hey, it's going to be right. Think about these things, because I did not.
Yeah, I love that. I want to dig deeper in that, but I want to come around to that, because I want to give the listeners, again, now they know a little bit more about you, your background. Talk to them about SpotOn. Surely people out there know SpotOn. This has sort of been you guys have been a big deal on the market over the last 5 or 6 years. Certainly at trade shows, you got a strong presence. In the market, you got a strong presence. But maybe there are people who don't know the company. Maybe, and I'm guessing this is probably a lot of people, don't know all of the things you do. And I think it's really the full suite of things that you guys do, which makes you so compelling as a product. It's one of the things that I love most because it allows for consolidation of the tech stack. It's one of the reasons why I would recommend you guys long before you guys ever came and we started the relationship that we have on this podcast. But I've loved what you guys do for a long time. So bring the listeners up to speed. What is SpotOn? When did SpotOn launch? What is it you guys have done? How has the platform grown, and where is it now?
Right. Yeah. So we started as a point of sale company in 2017. So we've been around about 6 years, and we're one of the few fully integrated restaurant management systems. We bring in all the products that a restaurant needs to run their business, from online ordering to loyalty program to waitlist reservation system, payments, contactless payments such as QR codes and ordering handhelds, tableside, literally all the things that a restaurant business would need. And what we've noted, and what I didn't, and kind of maybe even going back to what I didn't have, but what is available now is this ability to kind of reduce vendors, save costs, but really bringing all these key pieces together so I can make really good decisions. I'm looking at data, I'm looking at customers, I'm looking at everything all kind of in one place. And then, of course, if something goes wrong, which we know technology does, and nothing in the world is perfect, that if something does go wrong, I have one place to go, and that's one company. I don't have to sit on phone with, is this my payments company? Is this my online ordering?
Yeah.
Is this the I have one place to call, one solution to fix everything.
Yeah, and listen, I deal with that even with my iPhone, right? Like, is it a Google problem? Is it an Apple problem? Is it where is it a Verizon? Is it my Wi-Fi connection? Where's the problem? So if there's everything under the hood, there's a lot. Again, there's a lot. Everything you just mentioned. When I first came across SpotOn, I remember seeing all the stuff that it does. It was like, oh, there's like everything here. Look at everything that comes in the box. That was obviously deliberate because you said there's a lot that restaurateurs need to be successful, or how was that thing built? Because you said you started as a POS. How did you start adding things, and how did you know what to add and what to do next?
No, that's a good question. I mean, one of the things we ended up waitlist reservation system we did not build. That came through an acquisition with the Seat Ninja. They were successful company and had been reaching out and had many other customers in the larger big restaurant groups. We pulled them in, but the thing we saw with them, what we wanted to bring to our restaurant owners was that use it as a tool. There's no fees per guest. There's no huge monthly fees. It's a very affordable way, and we almost look at it as like a tool, right? It's a way to a restaurant owner can actually I need to have a wait list. I need to bring in reservations. That's all I needed to do. I don't need it for marketing or anything. So that's one of those. Another one being a labor management system. We brought them in. That was a company called Dolce that was acquired a couple years ago as well. And so we've been seeing this growing need over the last 3-5. I mean, labor issues have been going on for decades in the restaurant business, but more so now where we really need to manage this from scheduling to editing and time clocks and from connections to payroll and all the things that suite and that software comes with is super powerful, whether you're an independent or you're multi-location mid-market restaurant group. It's every restaurant has labor issues and compliance issues within their states. You need that stuff. So that, and the other things, and those two actually products, you actually don't need the point of sale. We actually sell those independently, but everything else was built in house. So we have a huge engineering development team, product team has grown over the years, and continued to build our own products, and it's pretty amazing to see what they've done.
Yeah, for sure. So talk to me about, so we talk about tech, right? Everyone knows that they need tech. Everyone has a tech stack. There's a lot of talk about tech stack and all of that. For me, it's just it's just a better, more efficient, more effective way of doing what we already do well, or what we've done well for a while. And now, in essence, we can do it better than we ever did before. You talk about managing key costs, and I want to dig into here because I always say it's hard enough to run a business with one moving target, and we were all stupid enough to enter an industry that has three moving targets. Number one being revenue, that we have no idea how much revenue we're going to make one day to the next. I think in terms of like a factory, like a publisher, right? Like a printing press. A printing company knows how many books they have ordered, how many different books, how many copies of the books. Like they know what their July looks like. They know what their August looks like because they have so many commitments lined up. They know that they're going to fill their factory 14 hours a day, and they can then plan on bringing in the cost, the goods that they need, only the paper that they need, only the plastics and the dust jackets and the bindings that they need, not any extra. Right, so they have their revenue is already basically locked in before they start the month. We don't. Ours is a moving target. We have no idea who's going to come in day to day. We're infinitely affected by the news and by the weather, things like that. So, moving target number one. Moving target number two. Obviously, if revenue is variable, our cost of goods sold are then variable. We buy the food in the hopes that people will come in and buy that food. That's another big problem. Then the third one, obviously, being labor, is that we staff appropriately based on the business levels that we're guessing at, that we're forecasting, but that's the third moving target. So talk to me a little bit about, because I know that this has been a big piece to it when you talk about sort of managing the expenses and the costs of running a successful business. And now this is maybe where we tie in your own experience of being a restaurateur, but talk to me about sort of how you guys think about this and how SpotOn sort of works with that.
Yeah, so those three key components are revenue, cost of goods, labor management. Those are really, that's drilled down all the way. And we think about revenue as obviously trying to drive as much revenue in as possible. And so some of these tools with online ordering. Let's think about, first of all, a lot of people use online ordering for whether I'm ordering pizza or Chinese, all the typical things. But there's also opportunities with online ordering, especially with some at SpotOn, where it's commission free. It's a one-time subscription based. That's it. There's no extra fees on top of that. Where I have an opportunity to maybe I can make 10% extra. Maybe it's something I can do to add on and generate more revenue at a very low cost, right? Maybe I'm selling coffee bags that don't expire, or finding, other things I can do and sell that are more predictable, or I can make them predictable or don't spoil. Like that's a revenue driver. Getting more butts in seats. How do we do that? Obviously, it's the number one driver for restaurants, right? Is it through marketing? Sure, we have that. We do have marketing campaigns that are built into our system. We're getting data from transactions, whether it's from online ordering or it's through coming in the restaurant. How the various ways that we collect it. Now I can build campaigns, and I can send, whether through email campaigns, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. And it's another good way to attract whether new guests or the loyal guests that are followers have been with you forever. And one of our favorite, and I'm just mentioning it a second ago, is waitlist reservations. Can I get people through and turntables faster? Right? And we have other tools with like handhelds and QR codes, a way to like get food to them faster. But some of it, like having a really accurate waitlist system, and having the ability to like communicate and it integrates into the point of sale. We're the only ones that do that. The only ones that actually you can come up to the host stand, you're going to join the wait list, and have your reservation, and when you sit down, it is actually integrated into the point of sale. So there's communication between the host desk and the POS and the servers and the floor managers, and everyone's on the same page. And that is an unbelievable technology to have, and ability to communicate on the floor in a super busy multi-room facilities that are patios and multi-levels. Like you can't have it reduces labor cost. There's so many wins, right? I can go on, right? Yeah, for sure. That's like revenue, right? And then of course, cost of goods. That's a moving target, and it will never end. Of course. We saw the worst of it. And and we don't necessarily work, one of the few things we don't do, that's where we rely on our integrated partners, obviously with, some of our best friends like Margin Edge, who are handling invoices and bringing in goods and making sure it's integrated into the point of sale. We're getting product mix. So it's all these things like
Margin Edge is another partner here, another sponsor of the podcast. And again, they are a sponsor on this podcast because I reached out to them because I think they are the best at what they do. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's a 1-2 punch for sure. Yeah,
great friends of ours. And I think that's where you start to really put all those pieces in, kind of like tech stack. Like, it's a buzzword, but it needs to happen. Like, we're slow to adapt in this business, and it's time is now. There's no more time to waste what should I do, or if I should do it. You got to do it. So it's a big part of what I stress, and I talk about it in an educational kind of consultative way. And when I get to talk to our clients or prospects or people, at the trade shows, whatever, and this is, I feel like the core of where we're at and what we want to be as a company. And it's not jamming things down people's throats, buy this, buy that. It's really being like, what works best for you?
Well, and I think what's interesting is that you get, and I'm sure you know this when you talk about like, a lead. A lead is a restaurant owner out there who's considering, bringing something in. I think they fall into a couple different categories. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's like there are people who have totally adopted it and like get it and see the benefit of it, right? There's people who know that they should do it, and they've heard that they should do it, and they're sort of like nervous about doing it. And then there's other people who are just like don't see the benefit of it at all. Like I sort of see them in one of three camps. And I think the power of what you guys do is that it is sort of like an easy lift, all things considered. Like, it's something new. If you really don't have technology, which there are plenty of places. I just worked with a client of mine to bring in a POS system, a computerized POS system for the first time in their like 30-year life. They never bothered. They didn't need it. It was like short order, simple like handwritten dupes, and they rang it up at the register. Like they just haven't ever needed a computerized POS. So you get people like on that end. And then people in the middle who are like, feel like they're overwhelmed because they just hear from so many different things. And I think the fact that you guys have so many of the solutions all there, for me, that's what I've always appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, we go into these meetings, first time meeting people, and it's just questions. It's like, what's bothering you? What do you need to improve? What is it that you're missing? What would you like to see more of? There's just some, we're just trying to absorb and trying to find and what can we do to make their world better? What can make their business more successful? And we have a slew of tools to do that. And again, it's not like, okay, well, you gotta have online ordering, you gotta have this, you gotta have that. Now I got this, big, software fee, and I'm making a bunch of money. It's not like that, because not every restaurant's the same. They don't work the same. They have different segments. They're different cuisine types. They have different goals. They have different like all these things. So we do a really, really good job of listening and making sure that we build a system that's best for them.
POPMENU has reimagined the restaurant. They're breaking the mold of the menu, taking the kitchen doors off the hinges, and serving up their most comprehensive technology solution yet, POPMENU Max. It comes with the previous ingredients you've heard me mention on this podcast. Websites designed with SEO, marketing tools to keep you top of mind with guests, and of course, the patented interactive menu technology. This new recipe brings automated phone answering, third-party online order aggregation, wait listing, and more to the table. POPMENU's phone answering technology has your ringing phones covered. With artificial intelligence, the simple questions that keep your phone line tied up can now be handled without pulling a staff member from your in-person hospitality. No more missed reservations, asking for your hours, or missed revenue. And that's just the beginning. You have a passion for food, POPMENU has a passion for technology. Together, it's a recipe for restaurant success. Now, even more digital ingredients are in their technology pantry, and POPMENU is helping restaurants attract, engage, remarket, and transact with their guests on a whole new level. Trust me, if you're a restaurant owner, you need POPMENU to take your business to the next level. For a limited time only, get $100 off your first month, plus you lock in one unchanging monthly rate. Go to popmenu.com/restaurant strategy to claim the offer. That's $100 off your first month at popmenu.com/restaurant strategy. As always, you'll find that link in the show notes. So talk to me again in the spirit of like, you get to peek behind the curtain at a bunch of different businesses. You get to speak to a lot of different operators at all different levels from all over the country. Talk to me about some of the common threads about this day and age, right now, today. What do the most successful places all have in common, or the most successful operators all have in common?
Yeah, oh my God, it's so hard to say. And it's funny that like, I also think about as, markets are different and what a successful restaurant looks like in Miami versus one looks like in St. Louis, and,
right.
But I think that, that they're thoughtful from the very beginning, and it's about knowing what am I good at? What can I actually do? I know that a fine dining restaurant has never been, built in my suburb, but I don't really know anything about fine dining. I don't know anything about, a huge wine list or, anything like, so maybe you shouldn't do that, or it's kind of like understanding like, what am I passionate about? What do I want to wake up and do every day? And I think those that are really honest and think about what they can actually accomplish is a good starting point. And then get it down on paper. You got to write it down. You got to get a plan, and you got to get that clear concept. And that is when you start to see like where people all start lining up. Like and without a good plan, how are you going to raise money? How are you going to prove yourself to? If you can't sell it to some your friends and family, how are you going to then scale it into something you're going to sell to a bank or get investors or whatever it is? Like you have to get these things down on paper, and that's where you start to say, okay, now I'm and understanding what locations and licensing and all the things that come with it. And it becomes just generally the restaurant business is so complex, and understanding all the things you don't know it all, and you won't know it all from the beginning. You're going to learn. I learned the hard way, and most people do. Right, so it's really about educating yourself, leaning on partners, leaning on professionals that can help you kind of get to those stages, be a good listener, go talk to other restaurant owners, that kind of stuff. And those are the ones I think that they don't come in with their chest puffed up and they know everything are the least successful. It's the ones that are, I think that's it. And then they learn to then build like this, how do I now in 2023 in this decade, like I'm gonna need technology to support my where I'm at, and I know that I have all these challenges ahead of me. What can I do to make it easier on my life somehow or another? And and those again, I think that's where, if you're in Miami or Seattle or Chicago, that's where it all starts to kind of come together, and relying on their partners and not being allow them to do what they want to do, which is probably feed their guests and do the things that really they're passionate about, and let the other things kind of come around to help them.
Yeah, it's so funny. You remind me of something that I sort of spout out all the time, which is that you got to figure out who has a problem you're uniquely qualified to solve, right? And I think when we do that, I always say there's two ways to market a restaurant. Number one, you figure out something you want to do, right? You create a product and then go try and find a customer, or you look for a group of customers that need something and then just craft the product, craft the solution that they need. By far in this industry, we're really guilty of doing the first, and the most successful companies in the world do the second. So I think if we got really good, to your point, of looking around a market and saying, hey, who needs something? Who needs something that I'm uniquely qualified to provide? Again, if you don't work in fine dining, if you're not familiar with that, I don't think that's something you should do, but you can find something that your market, your community, your neighborhood needs. So I could not agree more. And then I'm always reminded of that Jim Collins thing, right? Jim Collins wrote the book Good to Great, and he talks about the hedgehog concept. It's a Venn diagram of three overlapping circles, and he says, what are you deeply passionate about? What will people pay you for, right? And what can you be the best in the world at? And the Venn diagram, right, where you should be is where all three circles overlap, right? What are you deeply passionate about? What will people pay you for? And what can you do better than anyone else in the world? And I think if you sort of start with that, let that be your North Star in the beginning, I think that would help a lot of people who are starting restaurants for sure. talk to me about, so when you have these early conversations, so we're talking about, starting a restaurant, right? And obviously you've started a bunch of restaurants. How do those early conversations go? I mean, somebody picks up the phone, so they've got an idea, they've raised some money, and they say, okay, well now I know I need POS, so they go and they do some research. Eventually they wind up on the phone with you guys. How does that conversation go? I know you said a minute ago it just starts by asking a lot of questions. Is that really how that conversation begins?
Yeah, honestly, I think our most successful people that are out there, our salespeople are just curious and want to know like what it is. If you're, what, and if it's a new restaurant, maybe it's not been open yet, and you're finding like, well, what's the concept? Are you guys going to be relying on, as a counter service? Okay, well, this is probably how we start to shape things. Or are you, fine dining? You have a huge patio. Maybe you need to incorporate handhelds, or you're just a big brewery, and we have this great solution where you have QR codes that can be put on tables, and it's a big, expansive space. You can't have a bunch of servers, right? So it's really kind of getting to know that concept and really understanding like what they're doing. It's always the best place to start, and then we can build the system around them and what is, and obviously make suggestions and think like, I never even thought about maybe in a feature like, or I never even thought about that I would need a waitlist and reservation system. I'm not going to go reservations. Well, you don't need that. You said you want to have a busy brunch and you want to have that elusive third turn. You probably need a super accurate waitlist system, and we can provide that for you that's integrated in the point of sale. We even have a cool new feature I should mention that is called Seat and Send. We just released this thing, and this is like amazing. So imagine there's a couple scenarios, but the one I like is where we're going in. I have children, right, and we go into a restaurant, and they're cranky and they're hungry, and there's a 20-minute wait list, right? So I'm like, God, geez, I can't wait. These kids they got to eat. When you go and check in, they actually send you. I'll put my name in. Take my phone number, and what they end up doing is they send a text message to me. It says, "Thank you for waiting. It'll be 20 minutes," or whatever the wait list is, and then they'll say in there, there's a link to the menu. If you want to pre-order, you can have that. So when we seat you at your table, we'll actually fire the food, and it'll be sent to your table, speeding up the whole thing. So now I'm walking over my cranky kids. I put in some chicken fingers and some whatever I needed to keep them happy, some chips and guac. And boom, what do you know? I sit down, and within as the operations go, within just a couple minutes, I have food at the table, or I have ice cold, non-watered down margaritas waiting for me. Like that's And now I've reduced that whole time from the server comes to touch the table and say hello and go through the specials and answer questions. I'm already starting. I've already begun the journey, and like those are the kind of cool things that we've kind of thought through and thought about from guest experience. How does it improve, drive more revenue, turn more tables, all those things. And it's just these little nuances, because sometimes, like I said, that third turn, how do you get that? Yeah. Well, if you have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of tables, you got to get them in there somehow.
Isn't that so cool? So as you say it, as you explain it, I've never seen that happen. I've seen other things. What's the in Chicago? They got the deep dish Illuminati's. Is that the name? Where they seat you and say, you come in and say, hey, table for 4. They're like, it'll be about 45 minutes. Here's the menu. Why don't you place your order for the pizza now? Pizza takes about 45 minutes. And so you look at the menu for 5 or 10 minutes. You place the order. By the time you get seated, it's there like 5 or 10 minutes later. It's like I saw that, 10 years ago, and I was like, that's absolute genius. Right. But what you just described, I've never seen before, and it makes such absolute sense. And I always say that the guests want what we want on the restaurant side, right? Like we want them to spend more money, but in the end, they want to spend more money too. Like we want them to come and eat and be gone so we can turn the table. And guess what? For the most part, that's also what they want. And there's just total alignment there if we let ourselves, right? We say, oh, well, no one wants to be rushed. It's like, no, sometimes they do.
Right.
No one wants to be parted with their money. It's like, no, sometimes they do. Like when I'm going out to celebrate, like I'm here to celebrate. I've already budgeted for this. I'm ready to spend some money, and so these tools are allows. I love it the way you describe it there. It makes absolute sense.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, and I think that it gives again, it's giving the restaurant options and giving them things that could be beneficial to them. Some restaurants might not want that or need that, and that's fine. That's how you want to run your business,
So, but let's talk about that, because I am convinced, right? So they always say progress only moves in one direction. Like we are only going one way. And technology, as big as it is now, I think is still nowhere near what it's going to be. I think the industry is going to be profoundly different 5 years from now than it is right now. And all the debates we've had about, to incorporate the tech stack or not, I think people are going to laugh at them in 5 years that we ever hesitated on handhelds, right? I still deal with this. I don't want handhelds at a fine dining restaurant. Why? Keeps your staff on the floor. Unless we're talking about a super, 3 Michelin star where a captain never picks up a piece of paper, captain never leaves the dining room, fine. But most fine dining, the captain still has to take the order and then go somewhere and deliver it. But then they're away from all of their tables. They're away if somebody needs something. We talk about that high level of service. I'm like, I think we're going to get over that really quick. It's funny that there's even a hesitation now when you look at what it does to increase check averages and table turn times. It's like a no-brainer. The data is so solid. I'll let you tell me data in a minute, but like the data I've seen is so clear. Why we're resistant on that, or QR ordering, or any of these things. I think it's only going to move in one direction. Obviously, you work for a restaurant tech company. You must believe the same, that these tools are there to benefit people. But what would you say to people that are still sort of like hanging on the edge, like resisting, dragging their feet? Because you've seen firsthand the benefit, sort of what this can do to restaurants. So what would you say to people who are sort of like dragging their feet on some of these things?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you even go back to let's go back 15 years ago, where just even thinking about ordering cases of food, like we would have never thought about the way, I only fax it. My vendor will only take faxes. Yeah. And they're like, I'm going to hang on by a thread to I'm going to call and leave a voicemail. And you're like, wait, what? We did that? Oh yeah, we did that. And we held on for dear life to do that. And you know what? Now everyone has very organized systems. You go in, and you can even text. You can do the way we work every day. Send an email.
It's better. Just to be clear, it's better now.
Yeah, it's better now, right? And so it's so if my server spends more time in front of my guests or the captains, whatever, they're probably going to strike up more conversations. They might actually get that third glass of wine that adds another 15% on top of my bill. They might be able to answer the questions. They might, build loyalty, make them feel like they're special, and they're like, you know what? Every time I have a birthday or I have a special guest in town, I'm taking them here because these guys know how to take care of them because they're around, and not waving someone down. So, and if it's a tool like a handheld that can do that, okay, well, why not consider it? Or just put one in the hand. Just we didn't go for sometimes be like, let's give it a shot. Doesn't work? All right, fine. But at least you started to think about adapting. Give it a college try, right? And think about what that actually means. And what's funny is that we actually then do that, and we can, I don't want to say we convince them or we sell it upon them, but they're like, you know what? Okay, this is actually, I get it. The only way to give it, we'll do it. And then what do you know? They went from 3 handhelds to 5 handhelds to 7 handhelds, and it's amazing that they start to adapt and they do it.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that the restaurant as we know it, I give so many talks about this intersection of hospitality and tech, about how we can use technology to actually make better guest experiences and all that. But the restaurant that we now have when I say, hey, let's go out to a restaurant, the experience you imagine, the experience that all the listeners are imagining, was basically invented 250 years ago. Restaurants before that were very, very different. And yet it's so all-encompassing that we can't imagine something else. But it hasn't been around that long. And I always sort of challenge people. I say, close your eyes and imagine all the things you hate about the dining experience, and think if there's ways to make it better. You just explained it. Hey, we put you on the wait list. We give you a link to the menu. You order, and the food is auto-fired when you sat. Like, that's a no-brainer. That's better. What you just described, that's better than the experience that I knew yesterday. Today I know it. Yesterday I didn't know it. It's better, right? The fact that somebody could be on a handheld, I always say, like, half a waiter's night is spent either copying stuff down or regurgitating that into a computer. So what if we could just cut that time in half? We now no longer need them to regurgitate something in a computer, and they could just be there, take the order, they step away from the table, they hit send, and they're just ready to go to the next table. They're ready to greet the next table. They're ready to get another glass of wine or explain the menu or just touch base and make conversation. We've now freed them up because we've taken 3, 5, 8 minutes out of their life. Especially, we all know this, you ran restaurants, an 8-top, a 10-top, a 12-top. It takes so long to take a 10-tops order. It takes even longer to put a 10-tops order in with all the modifications. I got to hit messages and know this, sub that, all that. Like, it's just better what we have. And I think if we challenge ourselves, and I always say challenge our tech partners. So when I talk to owners and operators, I say, if there's something you don't like, if there's something you need, then challenge your tech partner to deliver that so that it becomes what you need, because ultimately that's what you want. You want to create solutions. You sort of said this a minute ago. You want to create solutions that they need, and I want them to feel empowered to say, hey, this is what I think would be really cool in the dining experience. Because guess what? If they want it, I'm sure 500 other restaurants want it. It's like we can make a better guest experience than the one that was invented 250 years ago before the internet.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's where we bring in our restaurant advisory council and our brand ambassadors, because they're the ones, the advisory council even more so, because they are but not to separate them, but they're all restaurant owners and operators, right? And I don't care if you have one small independent restaurant or you have 50 of them, and they all have the same needs, right? But we really lean on them to help us they're the ones punching the buttons and running the food and cooking making the drinks and doing it every day. And we go to them, we lean on them and say, what do we need? What is it that we're missing? What is going to make your business better? Because just like you said, if it's going to help them, it's got to help, thousands of others. Yep. And we as a company, we love to listen. We want to get, hear their voice, talk to them. I mean, even today I was on a call with one of our advisors, and as he called, we had scheduled meetings. We just try to meet up as much as we can, and we were talking about a previous group. We had this giant advisory council meeting, and we were catching up about it, and he was talking about handhelds in particular, and that he would never use them in his restaurant because he's fine dining and this, but there's this thing about what he because he goes out to other restaurants and he thinks about this whole thing about, it's like, well, what if there was suggestive selling? What if I was standing there and someone ordered something where I need to add, I need to move extra cases of this one particular vodka that my beverage director foolishly bought because he was going to get something else, right? So how do I do that? So can I incorporate technology to and even to a handheld right at the point of time where I'm having to make a decision to do that? And I'm like, oh man, geez, that's so brilliant. I'm
100%.
I would never thought about that because I'm not working in restaurants every day. Then he's doing it, and he's like, oh yeah, how do I move all that? How do I move all that butter rum? Whatever. That's right. It's so
it's so great. But here's the thing: 10 years ago, the companies that we worked with in restaurants, right, as an operator, 10 years ago, you were an operator, right? We didn't have this connection to them, and I know I ran restaurants for a long time. We didn't have that relationship with them. 10 years ago, we couldn't say, hey, it'd be really cool if ... Now we can, to your point, right? You've got your advisory council. They're like, it'd be cool ... And then you go make it. We can do that, whether you're on an advisory council or not. Every operator, every owner has the agency, I think, to be able to demand more of the people they work with, because again, ultimately, you're just doing it better. So 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we just ran the restaurant the way that restaurants were designed 250 years ago, and never stopped to think, hey, why do we do it this way? And is there a better way? Can we do this better? Ultimately, I think we can continue to do it better because we've got so many challenges in our business, and we hear nothing but complaints from our people. And guess what? We're not only merchants on the restaurant side, but we're also customers, because we too go out to eat. So we know the things that drive us crazy. The things that drive us crazy also drive our customers crazy. So how can we be better at that? I think there's such a cool time to be in this industry right now.
Yeah, I agree, and that's that was my main reason for exiting, and it's completely selfish. And then I knew that there could be a way to move the needle and really be part of a movement, so to speak, to build things and change the industry, and really for the best. And from an owner's perspective, from an employee's perspective, really, there's so much change that needs to be done there. And obviously a guest experience like that. We've gone through this crazy ups and downs over the last 3 or 4 years, and we're going through all these changes. Do I tip on? Was that the article this week last week with? Do I tip on coffee? Do I not tip on coffee? All this stuff. Oh my God! What do we do? But these are the big questions that need to be answered. Yeah. Well, first ask, is this what we want to do?
100%.
Two, what is the answer? And not, no one really knows the answer, and we can't. I'm not really sure how it'll end up, but.
Well, but we're starting the conversation, which is key. One of the things that has driven me crazy, up until about a year or two ago, we sort of lumped all restaurants in together. And we're still a little guilty of that, right? That the restaurant industry. It's oh, come on. There's quick service, there's fast casual, there's full service, there's fine dining, there's big chains, there's restaurant groups, there's small independents, there's now food trucks and food halls, and there is no one size fits all. There's when we say, the restaurant industry, it's very, very different. Now I sort of have to qualify what part of the industry I work in, or the people that I mainly work with. To your point, and what I think is cool is that now we're starting to get different solutions for different needs, because again, we're identifying different challenges, the challenges that exist. And you said it a minute ago, at a big brewery. Right, big brewery needs one kind of solution. I'm helping to open the 600-seat restaurant within a brewery down in South Carolina that'll open next year. I'm sorry, they can't have 40 waiters on the floor, or 35 waiters. They just cannot. So the solutions we're exploring for them are such that have pursued us and have had us pursuing in certain directions. And that's true of all their places, because they're doing really sort of interesting, innovative things with that company. But now we're starting to talk about different solutions. Well, the fast casual, or the full service restaurant with a big patio. Hey, it's perfect for the handhelds. The big brewery that can't possibly employ that many people. Hey, let's talk about our QR solution. And now we're finally having these conversations, which is really cool to me. Scott, talk to me. We were talking about sort of the common threads between successful restaurants, and you were talking about having a plan in place and all of that. Talk to me about the flip side now, because again, you get to talk to a lot of different people, and you see a lot of success stories, but you also see people struggling. So talk to me about some of those common threads. What do the struggling restaurants all have in common, and how to get them out of that place?
Well, I think one of them is really kind of trying to get a fair assessment, maybe even a third party, someone like yourself, to come in and be like, hey, what's going on here? Maybe I need a clean set of eyes, to kind of
perspective,
because a perspective, and really understand hey, I mean, what is it? Where am I failing? Because sometimes you just get so in your head, right? I see most often is this, we call tech bloat. This idea that I have way too many vendors. I have too many things, and nothing's actually talking to each other. Nothing's working in my favor, and so I can't really assess my business. Right? I don't have reporting is not right. I don't know how many covers I'm actually doing, and I to tell whether or not I'm, am I is my cover count right? Does it match up with my sales? And do I need to improve my check average, or my server's not, like all these things, but like if they're not talking, then how do you actually know? Where am I? So, and I think most of it is just because they just either one, maybe they just don't even have it, but if they just did all these other things, like, well, I know I need a point of sale, and then I think I'm going to do online ordering, so I'll go get an online ordering thing, and then I'm going to need I got to have good reporting, cause, and you start to now have like 5, 6, 7 vendors, like, oh man, what did I do?
Easily.
If they come back around. Yeah, if they come back around and goes back to like what makes a successful one, is that like that thoughtful plan and thinking about who the technology partner that could actually do all of those things for me, and kind of streamlining things and just integrating my whole entire system. So that's one, and especially that's what we come across a lot. Managing costs obviously is like, it's hard to even say because cash flow and all the things that actually make a business, like keeps the business and keeps the lights on, keeps the employees paid. If you're not managing cost of goods, if you're not managing labor costs, you're done. I don't.
Those are the three big. It's one of the things that we talk about. So perspective and objectivity is, as a coach, I work with, I don't know, at this point, 80, 90 different restaurants across my various masterminds that I run. And I always talk about the three moving targets: revenue, COGS, and labor. You need a plan for hitting the revenue targets you need to hit. And then you need a plan for keeping, especially labor and COGS, tethered to that revenue number. They all move together. And when they don't move together, that's where we start getting problems, right? This way, if revenue goes up, COGS can go up. If revenue goes down, COGS have to go down. Same thing with labor, understanding where's the level of labor for the level of revenue that we have. It's like going to get your mortgage. You don't start looking at houses and then go ask the bank for a mortgage. You ask the bank how much you can get a mortgage for before you start looking at houses. Otherwise, you're going to break your heart.
For sure, yeah, and we talk about like, even if you want to really get drill down into maybe, and I'm sure you talk about too, about cost of goods and building the proper menu, one that you can actually cook, or you can actually pour and mix or whatever. There's food or beverage menus. Can I actually do that? Can I get the ingredients at the right cost and in the right time of season and all? And if I need to make changes, do I have the creativity? Do I have the staff that can pivot and make those things while still maintaining my concept and not just following trends just because, ube is like amazing and everyone's putting it on the menu right now. I'm like, I don't even know what ube is, like I think people want it, but that doesn't fit my barbecue restaurant. Maybe, I don't know, but and I think that's where people start to like try new things, and that's cool, and try to do specials, and it's great, but like, it has to stay within as you say, they all work together. And I can't just go out and buy expensive steaks just because I think people want expensive steaks. It just doesn't. Not going to buy them. Now you just wasted a bunch of money. So
we live and die by these narrow margins. We always say, right, most other industries have a built-in 20, 30, 40% profit margin, and ours has less. 10 if we're lucky, 20 if we really know what we're doing. What else as far as sort of struggling places? Is that sort of it? The ones that succeed sort of solve that thing? Is there anything else that you see?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more about labor. I know it's such a hot topic with rising costs and just from a minimum wage perspective, or the 80-20 rule and all these different states and everything. But we hear that more and more and more. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to manage it better? And again, it all comes back to having the right tools at your fingertips. I really feel like our solution, SpotOn Teamwork, is one that puts it all together. From the scheduling and having be able to, because it's tied into my point of sale and tied into my sales, I can actually forecast. I can I can look at my schedule and know how many servers, how many line cooks need to be on it from every hour during my set of hours of operations too. And then my managers can control that because now it's in real time and I'm getting that data and I'm being able to say, okay, all these things kind of coming together. I can shave a little bit here, but I'm not affecting the guest experience. And then I'm also building schedules that are within the compliance. I'm not going to get sued or something terrible if someone's going to come back or I'm not paying. I got to pay people the right amount. And then how does it easily come together on payroll day?
Yep.
Am I going to spend 2 hours trying to edit everything or figure it out and maybe affects all the other stuff? So then and then it directly connects to my payroll company, and it's a huge, that cost for me went from was average was usually about like 30%, almost like in places like San Francisco it's like pushing 45-50%, and that's running thin, that's running lean, that's not even so
it's crucial. All of my California clients, we work really hard to get them to about 38 seems about as low as I can get my California restaurants right now. It's such a challenging place to run a restaurant, for sure. So we're coming close to the end of our time together. Talk to me. Obviously, we've talked a lot about SpotOn, started as a POS, got all these other things sort of under the hood that sort of work in concert. What else is going on? What's new to report? What are you guys really excited about now?
And I think I've touched on a few of them, and things that I'm most excited about is really like it's just the things that we continue to see and hear from our clients and hear from the restaurant owners and operators, the servers, the bartenders about what they need, and continuing to think about what do they need, and then build those things. And we're our product team has been very good at listening and doing that and working towards doing that. So I feel very confident that's the future we have, and always being stable and always being reliable. And I think another thing that really sets us apart, and I think that we're always getting better, and we're going to continue to be, is being very service oriented. We're in a people business. The high service standards are demanded from guests to operators, and operators to vendors just like us, and we should do that. So we spend a lot of time, a lot of money making sure that our clients are well taken care of, and I think that is our future, and that we will continue to be one to be there and support locally, have someone to pick up the phone, help them through any challenges they may have, whether it's hardware issues or just like, oh man, I'm just not hitting my numbers. Like, who do I go to? How do I figure that out? And we have people there to do that with experience. I see that's where we're going with future. Sure, yes, our CPO, or any of our CEOs or any of our leadership. I'm sure they have their ideas too, what they want to do and where they want to be. Those are the things that I'm hoping for, and I see for the future of SpotOn.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. All right. I always ask guests on the show the same 5 questions. Are you cool to answer my 5 questions?
I hope so, yes.
Yeah. they're really easy. They're a bunch of softballs. Ready? First one. What's the last great meal you've had?
Last great meal I had. I cook a lot at home because obviously I'm chef background. So what it was, I can't remember the last time I went out to eat now I think about it.
It could be the last meal you cooked, something you had. Man, somebody have talked about like the little like a little wrap they got from the street cart down the street, whatever. What's the last great meal you had?
So I had actually here it is. So the last great meal I had was on 4th of July, and we had a family friends came over. All the kids are running around, and it was one of those moments where I was like, you know what? Every year I always get this thing around Thanksgiving that like, why do we cook the same foods on these same days? And I like tradition. I'm not trying to be anti-tradition, but I was like, do we really have to have hot dogs and hamburgers and all the, whatever the traditional American food is 4th of July? So I made this more of a, as kind of one of my go-tos, is like Mediterranean, more like spreads and dips and everything's light and, acidic and everything eat by the hand and, but so it felt very like summery and that, and, good wines to pair. And And I think everyone was just like, yes, this is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want the fatty hamburgers with mustard and ketchup dripping onto my shirt, kind of 4th of July.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. Okay. Second question. What's the last great hospitality touch you've had?
I think what I like is there's a pizza place and this is a pizza place that's just like I can just order, and it's always on time. Like it's perfectly timed. And I feel like I know exactly what I'm going to get, and I feel like that is just like comforting, and I feel like that they make me feel good, because I know if I make the order now and 20 minutes from now it's going to be ready and it's going to be hot, and I can pick it up and I can bring it home to my family, and it's good. And that there's no guessing. I feel like that's a big part of hospitality.
I love it. Consistency. I think it's a good
consistency.
Yeah, the consistency. I love it. Great. Third question. If a genie came down and granted you just one wish, you don't get 3, you just get 1. If they grant you one wish as it relates to the restaurant industry, what would it be? What would you wish for?
Free wine for everyone. No, I don't know. That's all my winery friends are going to be pissed at me for having to give away I think you see these signs all over the place, like be kind and be patient and all that. And I feel like sometimes that's like a cop out, because I feel like maybe they don't know how to run the restaurant right. But I do, but that's maybe being mean. But I think that honestly, I think it's really just being, it is that everyone we do need to understand that these are people running, ran businesses, and we should just be fair and from an employer's perspective and everyone should just understand we're in this together, and if we can just do it that one way and be fair with each other, then we're going to just be a better industry in the end.
I love that. Great. Number 4, I think we sort of covered this, but I just want to hammer it home, because I always ask this question. What would you tell someone who's about ready to open their first restaurant?
To get ready. Be prepared for everything that you had prepared, and that I've been talking about for the last hour. So to write it down and get prepared and have a business plan that after the first day of being open, half that plan is going to be to throw it away.
Good.
Be flexible, and know that you have to adapt, evolve, and be flexible, because not everything is, you can't prepare for everything.
Yeah, I love that. Great. All right, last question. Tell me about the future of restaurants. You, I'm sure, spent a lot of time doing this anyway, but I want you to look just 5 years down the line and tell me something that's coming that other people may not see coming.
I mean, I'm sure if you were at the NRA show, everyone's predicting AI, and AI is probably predicting AI is going to be the future. I think it's just simple as a more adaptation to technology, just more reliance on it in all the most positive ways. And that is, it's going to be a full adoption and understanding that I can't run a restaurant without it.
I think the restaurant 5 years from now will be so different from the restaurant 5 years ago that it will have very little to do with that model we talked about 250 years ago. So I tend to agree with you. I think it's changing really fast for the better if we let it, if we continue to shape it for the better. Scott, I appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat with me. Tell people where can they go to learn more about SpotOn.
Obviously, our SpotOn.com, a very huge website, has everything you need to know about our company. We're running. I believe we're running some really nice specials for those that have joined and listened. It's online ordering will be without a cost to any of the listeners, I think, and for anyone who's joining SpotOn for the rest of this year. So get out and get online ordering added to your
That's
account,
cool.
or sign up if you haven't already. It's a great way to boost revenue and get some more guests. And I don't know, LinkedIn, all the Facebook, all the good spots.
Great. We'll put all those links in the show notes. Scott, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time. Any final words of wisdom before I let you go?
Just remember, look, if you're starting a new restaurant, it's a complex world. It's lean on your partners, understand what you're trying to do, and let that passion fit into the right spot, right? And then obviously technology. You can't live without it. Even if it's in a little bit, you got to have some of it. And so, rely again on doing your research and doing the things that need to be done to get her to be a good place to go eat and attract as many guests as you can.
Yeah, perfect. Listen, Scott, great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Chip.
So once again, I want to thank Scott for taking time out of his day to sit and chat with me. All of the links are in the show notes. If you want to learn more about SpotOn, their POS system, all the solutions they have, I urge you to get in touch with them. I love the company. I love the product that they've got. Again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to sit and chat with me. If you want to learn more about the mastermind, I'm always talking about it, but we're always fielding calls. Please set up a free call, restaurantstrategypodcast.com/schedule. We'll get to learn more about you and your restaurant. You'll learn more about the program we run. We'll see if you're a good fit for the program. Again, I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.